Okay, you ready, Katie? Are you ready? I'm always facing the wrong way. There you go. Yeah. Hello, friends, and welcome back to Planty Mandy. I'm Mandy. This is Katie. And today we are going to be repotting a bunch of plants. Okay. I'm not sure why I'm kind of nervous today. I'm kind of off of my game. So you take the good with the bad. Here I am. I have 2 plants to just repot that are in my own soil. And then I have 7 or 8 plants that are in their nursery soil that just need to be switched out, especially with the cooler weather and the less daylight hours. I don't want them in that dense soil. So we are going to work our way through there. First off, we've got my big Thai Constellation in the hilariously tiny pot. So he definitely needs a repot. And I'm going to see if I can move you down here. It's a very large plant to get in the screen. This is just a 6 or 7 inch pot, I think, in a cover pot that is not stuck. There we go. And you can see he's trying to escape. So he definitely needs a repot. I don't know if anybody's still having problems with Thai-cons and root rot. It seems like this new batch of them isn't having the same problems that they used to. I imported this one last year along with a little bit smaller one, and I haven't had a single problem at all. They came with a bunch of roots. They kept all their roots. And obviously I put it in a pot that was probably too small even then because I was nervous about the root rot issues. But I've had no problems at all. I'm not sure how I'm going to get this out. There we go. I always forget to like shake loose soil out. That'll help. There we go. I want to break that one. Perfect. Lots of good roots in there. Definitely needs a bigger pot. I was finding that all of a sudden the leaves were starting to yellow a little bit. I lost one leaf, and it was not the oldest leaf because that's this one, but just kind of one in the middle, and then I've got one that's kind of yellowing on the edges, so it definitely needed to be upsized. And which pot am I thinking? I'm thinking probably this one. Just kind of nice because it's got the built-in tray on the bottom. It is technically self-watering, but I won't use it that way. So, oh yeah, that's good. Just a nice amount of room to grow in there. Okay. Yeah, so I said that I'm not feeling on my game kind of lately. I think a lot of people are feeling that way with the fall weather affects everything. And I haven't spoken about it before, but I do have chronic pain and fatigue due to fibromyalgia and a couple other things. So it's kind of a vicious cycle that I also have depression and anxiety. So when those physical things are worse, then the emotional, mental things are worse, and vice versa, right? Definitely depression affects all sorts of physical illness. I'm trying to put this kind of towards the front of the pot, so I've got room to direct these aerial roots down, and I'm not sure if I want to stake it up or just see if it'll continue growing like this because it seems pretty sturdy. So with Monstera Deliciosa, you can stake them. This is the large form, of course, the Tycons. And they say that they don't need proper moss poles, right? You can give them a proper moss pole and they'll grow their roots into the moss. But it's not necessary for them to size up and fenestrate. Kind of light is far more important for that. And with the large forms, they don't really need a stake until they're really large. So if you have a Monstera albo, that's a small form and it'll have a lot more room in the internode. And then they do benefit from some sort of a stake or a pole. I did have it potted really high up in the pot too, and I was having trouble getting it watered through because there was no room for the water to sit on top without overflowing. So give it a good smack, and there we go. Biggest one done. Perfect. I would like to show it to you, but it is really big. Okay, I'm gonna move that one out of the way. And next is this very sad rubber trees. Can you see them? There we go. So they were outside. They're definitely underwatered. They got too much sun. Putting it in terracotta was just a mistake. So I am going to switch it over to a plastic pot because it does require more water than what I thought when I put it in the terracotta. So we're just going to do that. I'm trying to, it's so hard to know. You can kind of see my face. If I move this further away. There we go. That's better. Okay. We are going to pull these out. I have 3 of them in here. 2 of the ruby and 1, no. Yeah, 2 ruby and 1, oh, I can't remember. I'll put it on the screen. But that's a good terracotta pot I will use for something else. Yeah, I know. Yeah, so fall has been affecting me. And also I had a screening test done last week in MRI because of some family history. And so for this MRI, they put you lying down on your stomach, supported by your forehead and your shoulders. And you can't move anything for like 20 minutes. Like, it's a long time. And you're laying there trying not to move. And the more you try not to move, the more your muscles tense up. And anybody with fibromyalgia knows that's going to cause a flare-up. So I have been having a lot more of my chronic pain in the last week. And of course, with this test, they did find a small cyst, which they say is most likely benign, which I believe it's probably benign. I think there might be a mealybug on there. Yep, there's mealybugs on there. I am not surprised. There's mealybugs on everything. Driving me crazy. Yeah, so they did find this cyst. It's probably benign. It's probably no big deal, but I've got to go for more tests. So I have to go do that tomorrow now. So I'm still kind of recovering from the last test, and all of a sudden I need to go get more tests and probably have another flare-up from that. So it's not exactly a fun time right now. And then right in the middle of all of that, we had Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to my fellow Canadians. And I'm very lucky that my mother-in-law hosts and cooks, and all I have to do is show up and then like help with cleanup and dishes and whatever. But it's still a very long day, and I am a textbook introvert, so I will every time get like a social hangover the next couple days after these big family social activities of any sort. Which also kind of always makes me wonder if I could be possibly autistic, because there's a lot of autism in my family on all sides, including my own kids. So I actually recently took the official questionnaire for autism diagnosis, right? And I'm very squarely in the could maybe be and could maybe not be. So that's helpful. And especially, you know, being a cis female and masking for almost 40 years, it's really hard to know. It's really hard to diagnose something like that. And so I just call myself neurodivergent adjacent or neurotypical adjacent, because I don't really know. But either way, having a big social activity in the middle of those tests wasn't really good timing. All right, that one's done. Hopefully I can keep it watered better and it will recover. I'm thinking about maybe in the spring I might try cutting it and propagating it and see if it'll branch more. I'm gonna have to treat it for mealybugs too. Actually, why don't I do that? So getting the alcohol in the pen, I squirted it in my eyeballs, so it's not my day. Hopefully that doesn't turn red. So if you haven't seen these before, they're like touch-up pens, paint pens, and they've been recommended by several people on the internet. And I just fill it with alcohol, so it's a lot easier than having like the bowl of alcohol and the Q-tips, that you can just have this sitting around and grab it whenever you need it. And it's a lot easier to get in the nooks and crannies too. And then after I use this to get anything that I see, I will also spray the whole plant down with mostly alcohol, a little bit of water mixed in, because you never know where those little guys have wandered and laid eggs and all that good stuff. And I'm definitely not the one to ask about completely eradicating mealybugs, because I am constantly fighting them on mostly like succulents and Hoyas and lipstick plants and apparently rubber trees. That's all I see though, so there wasn't a lot. And we'll spray it down and it'll probably be fine. So that's that. I will link the pens in the description for Amazon. They're really cheap. I think you can get like 5 of them for $10 or something like that. Okay, so that was all of the bigger plants that were already in my soil mix. So next is just nursery soil plants that I need to get changed out. So you saw this one last month in my favorites. I did decide to take it out of this nursery pot and nursery soil, just so it doesn't get too dense and overwatered over the winter. And I think I'm just going to pot it directly into the Wally Grow planter. It's a little bit bigger than it probably should be. And there's also mealybugs on there, which I knew, but I was hoping they were gone. Wally Grow planter is bigger than the nursery pot, but if I add enough perlite and bark and stuff, then it shouldn't be a problem with overwatering. So there's good roots in there. And I'm just going to gently tease some of this soil. I would have preferred to wait until it was dry. It is pretty wet at the moment, so it's not going to come off as easily as I would like it to. So I may not try and get all of the soil off. Okay, so that soil actually isn't as bad as I thought it was. There is a little bit of bark in there. There is some perlite, so I'm not gonna disrupt it any more than that. I did get some of it out, maybe like a quarter of it, and that's all I'm gonna do. So we'll just scoop some new soil into this Wally Grow. Hello. Plop that right into the center and fill around it. So I am just using my reused soil from other plants with some perlite added to it. Seems like I am going to run out, so I'm going to have to mix up some fresh soil. So I seem to be potting this a little bit lower down into the pot, which is fine because then it won't have too much soil to hold on to too much moisture. And I'm going to go mix up some more soil and I'll be back again. Okay, so I just got a bunch of my Pro Mix potting mix. I added some perlite to it. Now I'm adding some orchid bark. And I don't know what ratio that was, whatever kind of looks right. And we will finish filling up around. Whoops. Okay. So when I water that in, I might add a little bit more soil, but looks pretty good for now. And I'm assuming that you can propagate with the broken leaves. I don't know for sure, but I'm just gonna stick it in there and hope for the best. So there we go. All done for that one. Hey, let's see, this is a fun one. I have the 2 desert roses, Adeniums, and looking at everything I got for succulents, it seems like this one actually has the same water requirements as the desert roses. So Sedum, dasyphyllum, thick leaf, Stonecrop. So I thought those 3 would look cute together. And these desert roses have been drying out like every 3 days. Super thirsty. I'm assuming they're quite, well, not totally root bound, but you can tell that this is cactus soil and it just dries out so fast and becomes hard as a rock. So I don't love using cactus soil. I usually just use my regular soil and add more aeration bits to it. This one's got nice roots. And they're a little bit wet just because they had spider webs on them, so I had to rinse them off before I came to the table. And there's this little sedum. Nice little thin roots in there. And it is dropping little bits everywhere, so I'll try and throw those back in the pot. And for it, I was thinking this one that came from the rubber trees. Oh, I just covered up those little bits. Oops. Oh well. Okay, I'm just gonna loosen these guys up a bit. Yeah, that stuff's coming off real easy. So it is nice to do this when the soil is totally dry, because it just falls away like that. Check out the big bottom on this guy. That's so cool. And it's this one. Once again, making a mess everywhere on my table. But I guess the potting mat helps a little bit. And it contains the soil a little. What you doing, Katie? You want to go on there? Oh, you want to chew my pot? Oh, okay. Oh, so there's actually netting around this plug in here. Huh, I didn't see it on the other one. I'll have to look. So I'm just going to pull away what I can get. This one doesn't seem too restrictive, but I'd rather it not be at all restrictive. I know that's controversial, whether they're death plugs or whatever. I think it depends on what material they're made out of and how tight they are. But I'd still rather not have it in there. And give it some more freedom and room to roam. Okay, let's see if there was a plug on this one. There is not. So that's interesting. Probably because it's growing upside down and sideways and wonky and didn't do what they expected it to do, I guess. Which of course is what makes me love it. Wonky and weird is good. And this sedum, pretty tightly wrapped in here, and this the roots are very fine. And that seems like decent soil. So I think I'm just gonna plug that right into the new pot. So we're gonna need lots of new soil for these ones since I pulled all their old soil off. Oh, that was too much, too much. What I've heard about Codex plants is you bury the Codex for it to grow and then you unbury it to show. So I'm thinking since they're still small, I want to bury the Codex most of the way, like to here-ish. If I can do that without, yeah, see it so. If I go like this, it's very sideways, and then if I go like this, it's kind of difficult to bury it. So maybe kind of in between those two. There, over here. This one's simpler because it's growing the way it's supposed to, straight up and down. So I want to definitely bury where it's white here because that's where it wasn't getting sun before, and maybe a little bit more. I would like to see the codexes, but if it's better to size them up when they're buried, then that works for me. I'm in it for the long haul. I can be patient. And then this little sedum. Ooh, I might add some more soil first. See what I'm doing. Just right in the front. You can spread a little bit and it can kind of drape over the side. And fill it up. Like so. I think that looks really cute. What do you think? So with all of those new succulents I got, so I use the Planta app for plant maintenance. And of course it's not perfect for watering times, but it kind of gives you an idea of what kind of watering times these plants have. And then I literally had to use a spreadsheet to keep track of them all and figure out which ones I might be able to plant together in the same pots. So probably the next video will be me making succulent arrangements because I have 35 tiny little succulents now that I need to water, and it's a lot. So if I can put some of them in the same pots, that would be great. So I've got this spreadsheet that says which ones have similar watering needs and could be potted together. And this sedum was perfectly lined up with the desert roses because they need to be watered a little bit more often than most of the cacti and most of the succulents too. Trying to find the little extra bits of the sedum and throwing them in there. All right, so also with succulents, when you repot them, they say don't water them for a week or so because they will send out taproots to search for water in the pot. So you want those taproots to go as deep as possible without just getting the water they need right away, and then they won't reach out and look for more. So I will wait a week or so and water that in. I think it looks good. Cute. It needs a little figurine. And if you saw any of my other videos, it would be a dragon. So I'm gonna have to find a dragon for that. There we go. Okay, 4 more. Let's do this Philodendron Joepii. So when you see my video of monthly favorites and new plants, you can pretend you didn't see this one yet because it's brand new. Well, I have had it for a week or two. 2 weeks probably. And I can definitely tell there's some sort of a plug in there. But good roots, very wet soil. Some of these I would have preferred to leave to dry before doing this repotting, but I wasn't sure when I was going to do the repotting, and when they're thirsty, I just water them. This one is in very dense straight soil, looks like compost or something. So definitely want to get this out of here. It's just pure mud. And okay, so it seems to have a peat plug in the center, but it doesn't have any sort of wrapping on it. So I'm just gonna, oh, wait a minute. Is it sponge? Oh, it might be sponge. Okay, so I definitely want to get that sponge off as much as possible without destroying the root system. And the reasoning for that is the sponge will stay wet more than the soil mix will. And that means that the base of the plant is staying wet way longer. And that's obviously the base of the roots also, and you don't want that to rot. So I'm gonna get that sponge out as well as I can. Don't like that they do this. I understand why they root cuttings in sponges, but it is not fun for the consumer to figure that out. Okay. I don't know if I ripped any roots, so I'm gonna just take all of this soil off and see if any roots come out with it. I don't think so. I think that's pretty good. And it's okay if you break some roots. Like they say that you can root prune plants up to 1/3 of the roots. So if some of them break off when you're repotting, it's fine. It'll just stimulate more new root growth. So that actually went better than expected. Looks good. Perfect. I was pretty excited to find this Joepii in a local plant shop for quite a good price. I think I paid $15. And they grow really cool leaves. Like they get the really thin part up here and then like big bulbous part at the bottom. It's just really a unique plant. So I think I might just reuse the same pot it was in and just get some better soil mix in there. Break those chunks a little bit. And that was probably too much. There we go. So this one eventually will need some sort of support. So I don't generally do actual moss pools that you have to keep wet because I tend to not keep them wet and then they go hydrophobic and then it's like a nightmare trying to get them to go wet again. So most of my climbing plants I just have on like wooden stakes, and I know that they're sizing up slower than what they would and I'm missing out on like the ease of propagation and whatever, but they are sizing up. They're healthy. They're good. Most of them are philodendrons, which are not difficult to propagate anyway. So it's all good. Maybe once they get bigger and they kind of stop sizing up, I might try switching them to moss poles, but as of now, I'm liking the wooden stakes, and a lot of times, like especially with epipremnum, they really like to attach their roots to the stake just for support. So they're doing what they do in the wild if they had enough humidity in the jungle, and they're just climbing up trees, right? They don't have a moss pole that's totally wet all the time. They just support themselves on the tree. So there we go. That one is done. And these ones, you know, other than the succulents, I will water them through right away. And then if the soil settles a little bit more, then I will add some more soil on top. Okay, this one is Rhipsalis, Pseudorhipsalis, right? Red Rhipsalis. And it is not doing great. It kind of struggled outside. Yeah, so the soil pretty much just pulled right off of there. And then when I brought it inside, it did have some mealybugs. And I think I've taken care of the mealybugs now, but it's just kind of, it's alive. You can tell this is succulent soil also, just the way that it breaks up. Hey, you wrecking my pot? I don't know if I want you to wreck that pot. I guess too late now. They say that having a parrot is like having a toddler with wire cutters. So everything gets chewed, particularly window frames, and wall paint gets pulled off, and all sorts of good things. Okay, these roots are extremely dry. So what am I gonna do with this? The way it's so dry, I do not want to put it into terracotta. I might just use the same pot again. Yeah, that's gonna be okay. Just put in good soil and make sure I'm letting it dry out before I water it, and it'll be fine. Hopefully. Honestly, this is kind of one of those plants that if it doesn't make it, I'm not too upset. These roots are not happy. But maybe I was giving it too much light and not enough water also, so I will make sure to keep it a little bit more moist. It's kind of tricky to know sometimes with these jungle cacti, because you think of them as cacti or succulents, right? But they're from the jungle, so they would receive watering on the regular, but a quick drying time in between. They're probably epiphytic. Correct me if I'm wrong. They likely live. Hey, be nice. They likely live up on a branch, so they're not actually in the soil. So they get lots of humidity, lots of rain, but they don't stay wet. So maybe some more regular waterings for this one. There it is. I mean, it is pretty. If it would recover from my mistreatment and grow well. There's some new growth here that is quite pink, so that's nice. Pardon the dirt in my fingernails, oh my goodness. All right, that one is done. We are getting very close. Okay, this one is also a Rhipsalis. It is a Rhipsalis Paradoxa. I found this at the same store as the Joepii. And this one, I think it was like $8. I couldn't believe it. Absolutely gorgeous. I am thinking it is a lot of pot for not much plant. So that's why I would like to get in there and see what we're working with. Yeah, lots of soil, not much roots. That's just gonna fall right away for sure. Ooh, yeah. Not much roots in that great big pot. I don't know why they did that. Usually when you get a plant from a store, it's pretty root bound, but that was, oh really, really not much roots. Okay, so we might just take these all apart. Oh yeah, okay. So they basically just barely rooted these plants and threw it in a bigger pot thinking that they could sell them for more maybe. This one is completely broken. So, oh, I should use scissors. So there's the base and there's the top. I might cut that up a little bit smaller and propagate that. Okay, so maybe I see why it was only $8, but it's gonna do fine in a smaller pot. Never fear, we will save it. Oh, that's just a rotted piece. I'll try and propagate that too. Wow, it's a good thing I repotted this because that would have been rotting in that huge pot. Like, look at the tiny little roots on there. All right, that's okay. At least it's okay for me because I checked it right away. So hopefully everybody else that bought one is checking them. Because that's just craziness. I do take the stickers off my pots. I don't like that to have stickers on it, especially if it says a different plant. Okay. Kitty bird. What you doing? Hot. Try and make it kind of pretty. It's always the question when you have a plant like this, whether you want it to all trail off one direction or all the way around. And I'm never good at making that decision. So I'm thinking just one direction because it'll be on a shelf rather than like in a hanging pot. So if it trails off one side of the shelf, that'll be good. Okay, so we went from that pot to that one. Crazy, hey? And with these bits, I'm gonna grab some scissors. Okay, so I'm just gonna cut some smaller pieces off of here. Kind of like that. I will let them callus probably till tomorrow. And then I will stick them in a pot of dry soil. And then possibly about a week later, I will start watering it in a little bit. And we will get a brand new plant. Or more pieces that we can pop back into the main plant. I'm just going to leave this one like that so we can have all of its branches. And this little wrinkly piece, I don't know. I cut the dead part off the bottom and hope for the best. All right, so that, no, I didn't fill that up yet. Not all right. Okay. It's raining dirt. It's raining dirt. Hallelujah. Okay. That was way too much. But once again, those roots were really dry. I might just water this in right away because it's definitely thirsty. So there we go. I think it looks way better in a smaller pot anyway, doesn't it? Such a cool plant. And hopefully the extra propagations will go well and we will have a full one. Big pot that can be actually full. Okay, this one I'm super excited about, except it's been through a little bit of a journey. Can you see that? I set it on the table yesterday, kind of gathering whichever plants needed to be repotted, and a cat got to it. So, 0 stars, do not recommend giving cats and plants. At least not strappy plants, because they really like that. This is Anthurium Vittariifolium. There's 2 eyes in the middle. And when I purchased it, I chose this one because it actually has 3 growth points in there. So 1 growth point, 2 growth points, and the third, oh no, you can't see. 3rd growth point. And it had a brand new leaf until the cat ate half of it. But it'll recover. This has terrible mossy soil in it. It's awful. And check these roots out. Ta-da. Crazy, crazy roots. Which is why we love anthuriums. Look at that. Okay, so I really, really, really don't like this soil at all. And this is another one that was bone dry 2 days ago, so I watered it through, knowing I would regret it when it came to repotting day. But you do what you gotta do. You don't want to leave your plant totally bone dry. At least not these ones. If it was a cactus, yes, that would be fine. So I'm just trying to tease out this soil without breaking these beautiful, lovely, huge roots. So besides the fact that dry soil will come off the roots easier, it's also better on the roots to not be full of water because they will be firmer when they're full of water. Like, think of it like a water balloon, like it's firmer when it's full of water. So it will break more easily if it's well hydrated. If it's dry, it's more floppy and malleable and it won't break as easily. So that is another reason to repot when your soil is dry. But when you're making YouTube videos and you need to repot all your plants on the same day, that doesn't always work out. I'm learning. Okay. All right, so I did lose some roots, but again, it'll be fine. That'll just stimulate new roots to grow. I just found one that was kind of rotten, so I broke it off. Otherwise, it looks great. There's still some of that old soil on there, but I'm not gonna push it. There we go. Did I just snap a leaf? No. Okay. For this one, which pot? Oh, actually, that one would. I think that would work. That's super cute. I love the gray pots. I wish I had more of those. And I don't want to just use this regular soil mix for it. I would like to use more orchid bark. I ran out of the Pro Mix orchid bark, so I'm stuck with Miracle-Gro, which is okay, but the bits are smaller and they kind of break down quicker. It seems like a softer wood, I think. And the I like the Pro Mix because it contains perlite and charcoal as well. But use what you got, right? Most of my anthuriums I have in no drainage glass containers, and I put leca at the bottom and then a mixture of sphagnum moss and orchid bark and perlite in the top. But I've had a couple small anthuriums rot when I did that, and so I'm a little bit more hesitant to do that with a small one. And I mean, this one has big beefy roots, so it'd probably be fine, but I feel a little bit safer doing like a really chunky soil mix. And then sometime in the future when I up-pot it again, I might switch it to the no drainage. A little bit hesitant about that method at the moment. We do have a Philodendron in the no drainage method, and it's doing fine. But it seems like the Vittarifolium has more leathery leaves, right? It's not as velvety as a Philodendron is. So I feel like it would want to be kept a little bit drier. So it's all trial and error with plants, right? And just hopefully if they start to rot in something, we can move quick enough and save it. Otherwise, you're gonna lose plants. It happens. And that's why I don't buy expensive plants, because there's no guarantee that those plants are gonna make it. Yeah, this is really nice and chunky. I think this will do well. And then you just watch your plant and you listen to your plant, and hopefully if something's wrong, you're paying attention. And you can always change your mind and try something else. So if you're brand new, you don't know why I'm tapping, it's just to make sure that the substrate gets all the way into the roots, in between the roots, because you don't want too many air pockets in there. You want aeration so oxygen can get to the roots, but you don't want the roots to be sitting in an air pocket or they will just dry out and die. There's some roots really high up here that I'm trying to get totally covered. This one is very much different from the other anthuriums that I'm used to, because they're generally like just sticking straight up out of the soil, right? And this one, because of the 3 growth points, and maybe because of the Vittarifolium, it seems to be like laying flat on the soil surface, like it's a crawler almost. So normally I would bury most of the stem in soil, and then I would put sphagnum moss on top on the stem, but there is no stem sticking up. It's like laying flat on the surface. So hopefully I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing here, and I'm just super excited to see that grow, especially with 3 growth points. I really lucked out. Alrighty, that's it. We're done. We did it. I'm so glad to get that done. Really wasn't feeling very good, but I'd rather be doing this than housework. So that feels good. I really enjoyed getting my hands in the dirt again. This old soil from the nursery plants, I might throw it into a bucket and save it for outdoor plants, or I might just go take it outside and dump it somewhere. It's not really what I would like to pot other plants into, so we will dispose of it or save it for spring. Alrighty, you ready to say goodbye, Katie? Can you say goodbye? Goodbye. Goodbye? Nope, won't say goodbye. I will though. Thanks for watching so much. I appreciate you. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for all of your lovely comments. It really does mean the world to me. And until next week, I am Planty Mandy. That's Katie. Peace. Very dirty hands. Love. And plants.
I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays, way back a year ago. I've changed for the better this time. I thought I would never be fine. I strive just to say I'm alright, and for the first time in a long time I'm alright.